There's never a dull moment at Ibrox these days, and things have only gotten more intense after yet another scathing critique from Michael Stewart. The former midfielder didn't hold back, this time aiming his fire at young Mikey Moore, a player many fans were excited to see in a Rangers shirt. But according to Stewart, that excitement is misguided. He claims the club has put way too much responsibility on the shoulders of a teenager who's barely had time to settle into professional football, let alone lead the charge for a side that's crumbling under pressure. Now, let's be honest, Stewart is never shy about voicing his opinions, especially when it comes to Rangers. But this time, his words have sparked genuine debate. Is he actually making a fair point, or is this just another example of a pundit stirring the pot? Moore arrived from Tottenham after a breakthrough season in North London, where he made 19 appearances and even got his hands on a Europa League winners' medal. For an 18-year-old, that's impressive. But stepping into the chaos that is Rangers right now, that's a different challenge altogether. Stewart's criticism centers on two key issues. First, he doesn't understand why Rangers would spend serious money on loan fees just to bring in a player they won't even own long-term. In his view, it's madness to pour resources into developing another club's talent, especially when the squad is desperate for players who can make an immediate impact. Second, he argues that Moore's being used out of position, forced to play on the right when he's clearly more comfortable on the left. And to make things worse, the team is filled with right-footed players who all want to cut in from that same side. The imbalance is obvious, and Moore is the one paying the price for it. But here's the thing. Can you really blame the kid? The whole team's struggling. Russell Martin's system isn't clicking. The dressing room looks fractured. And the fans? They've completely lost faith. That's not an environment where a young player thrives. It's a place where talent gets stifled, confidence gets shattered, and potential never really blossoms. Moore might have looked like a gamble worth taking when he signed, but now it feels like he's been thrown into a fire with no protection. And speaking of fires, Russell Martin is right at the center of one. The pressure is suffocating. After a horror start to the Premiership season, Rangers find themselves languishing in 11th place, a position that would be shocking in any year, but in this campaign, it's downright humiliating. Add to that the absolute disaster in Europe, a 9-1 aggregate hammering at the hands of Club Brugge in the Champions League playoffs, and it's clear why supporters are demanding change. That kind of result doesn't just sting, it scars. There was a brief flicker of relief with the 2-0 win over Hibs in the League Cup, but even that result felt like a bandage over a bullet wound. The anger hasn't gone away. If anything, it's growing. You could hear it loud and clear outside the dressing room before the match, where over 1,000 fans gathered to sing their frustration, chants of "Get out of our club," and "If you hate Russell Martin, clap your hands," echoing through the walls. Imagine being a player in that dressing room, hearing that kind of venom before stepping onto the pitch. That's not support, that's a warning. And it's not just Martin under fire. CEO Patrick Stewart is also in the crosshairs, with many fans blaming the leadership at all levels for what's been described as the worst start to a league campaign in nearly 50 years. There's a sense of deep-rooted dysfunction, from the boardroom to the technical area, and the supporters are done being patient. They want accountability. They want results. And if they don't get them soon, they want heads to roll. But here's where things get complicated. Former Aberdeen executive Keith Wyness has stepped into the conversation, warning that sacking Martin might not be the silver bullet fans are hoping for. In fact, he's gone as far as saying that the job itself has become toxic, that Rangers, once one of the most prestigious clubs in Britain, is now seen as a managerial graveyard. And with Martin already being the third man in charge this calendar year, that argument holds weight. First it was Philippe Clement, then Barry Ferguson, and now Martin, all gone or on the brink in the space of months. It's chaos, and top-level coaches aren't exactly queuing up to step into that mess. Wyness believes that this revolving door of managers is setting the club back years. Constant turnover breeds instability. It disrupts the squad. It confuses the philosophy. And eventually, it tarnishes the brand. If you're a top manager looking for your next project, why would you choose a club that chews up and spits out its coaches at the first sign of trouble? That's not a challenge. That's career suicide. And as harsh as that sounds, it's the reality Rangers may be facing if they don't find some kind of direction soon. Still, for the players on the pitch, there's no time to dwell on the politics. The focus has to be on football, And that's exactly what striker Bojan Majowski has been preaching. After a few frustrating appearances where he was left isolated and starved of service, Majowski finally got his first goal in a Rangers shirt against Hibs. It wasn't just a personal milestone. It was a much-needed release valve for a squad that's been choking on pressure for weeks. The North Macedonian knows the weight of expectation, but he's also aware that unity is the only way forward. His message was simple: block out the noise, keep your head down, and grind out results. That's what they did on Saturday. Alongside Nico Raskin, who also got on the scoresheet, Majowski helped deliver a performance that, for at least 90 minutes, brought a bit of calm to a club in freefall. But let's not sugarcoat it. One result doesn't change the big picture. The next two matches are crucial. A Europa League clash with Genk and a Premiership showdown away to Livingston will likely decide Martin's fate. Anything less than a pair of convincing results, and he might be packing his bags before October. The problem is, even if Martin goes, the deeper issues remain. This isn't just about tactics or formations. It's about vision, structure, leadership, things that can't be fixed overnight with a new face in the dugout. And that's exactly why Wyness is urging fans to think beyond just demanding sackings. Yes, voices should be heard. Yes, criticism is valid. But without a plan, without a roadmap for real change, it's just noise. Rangers need more than a manager. They need a reset. Meanwhile, the pressure on young Mikey Moore continues to grow. Despite Stewart's harsh words, the kid's doing his best in a near-impossible situation. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe the club did hype him up too much. But none of that is his fault. He's not the problem. He's just another player caught in the storm. Whether he sinks or swims might depend less on his own talent and more on whether the club around him can stop the bleeding before it's too late. If there's one thing you can't question, it's the passion of the Rangers' support. But passion without direction can quickly turn to chaos. And that's exactly what we're seeing play out week after week. What happened outside the dressing room before the Hibs match was more than just a protest. It was a symbol of everything that's boiling. Under the surface, chants echoing through brick walls, players lacing up boots while hearing fans demand their manager's head. This isn't normal, even for a club used to high expectations. It's the sound of a relationship breaking down in real time. And the truth is, the squad feels it. You can see it in the way they play, hesitant, disjointed, second-guessing every move. It's not just about tactics. It's about trust. And right now, the trust is broken, not only between the supporters and the manager, but between the players and the system. There's no rhythm, no spark, no belief. Even when results go their way, like the 2-0 over Hibs, it feels more like a temporary reprieve than a turning point. The crowd may have celebrated, but nobody was fooled into thinking the issues are solved. It's damage control, not progress. Take Majowski, for example. You look at his first few performances, and the man's clearly working his socks off. Making runs, pressing defenders, chasing lost causes, doing everything you'd want from a center forward. But what's the use when there's no link-up play? No creative support behind him? In those matches, he looked like a lone wolf stranded in enemy territory, fighting battles he couldn't win on his own. The frustration was written all over his face. And when the goals don't come, it's always the striker who gets questioned first. But that's unfair when the supply lines are completely broken. The goal against Hibs meant more than just opening his account. It was a statement, not to the fans, not to the media, but to himself, that he still believes in what he can bring, that he's still got fire in his belly. And make no mistake, Rangers will need every ounce of that belief going forward, because the fixture list isn't getting any kinder. Genk in Europe will be a brutal test, especially considering the scars left by the Brugge humiliation. Then Livingston away. Never an easy place to go, especially when confidence is fragile. If Martin survives those two games, it'll only be because the players pulled something out of the fire. But the bigger question is this: what happens if they don't? If the performances dip again and the pressure boils over, what comes next? The club can't keep recycling managers like they're disposable. There's no stability in that. There's no identity. It's just chaos dressed up as change. Every time a new face comes in, we hear the same promises: rebuild, restructure, reconnect. But how can you rebuild when the foundation keeps shifting? How can players settle into a system when they've got to learn a new one every 3 months? This is where the board has to take responsibility. It's easy to let the manager take the fall, but the problems at Rangers go far deeper. The recruitment strategy, for one, has been all over the place. One week they're bringing in youngsters on expensive loans, the next they're signing veterans past their peak. There's no consistency, no clear plan for what kind of football this club actually wants to play. Mikey Moore is just the latest example. A talented kid, no doubt, but brought into a situation where success was always going to be a long shot. Expecting him to be the difference maker in a broken system is not just unfair, it's negligent. And Stewart's words, while harsh, are tapping into that very frustration, not just with Moore, but with the people behind the scenes who made these decisions. Because when a team looks lost on the pitch, it's usually a sign that the problems started long before kickoff. It's in the training ground, in the scouting meetings, in the boardroom. And until those problems are addressed, no manager, no striker, no wonder kid from London is going to fix it. Let's talk about the midfield too, because that's another area where the lack of cohesion is costing Rangers dearly. Nico Raskin's return to the starting 11 brought some much-needed composure, and his goal against Hibs showed what he can do when given freedom to roam. But he can't carry the midfield alone. There needs to be structure around him, players who can protect the back line while also driving the ball forward. Right now, it's too often a case of individuals trying to solve problems on their own. That's not sustainable. And defensively, things are still shaky. There's no sense of control at the back, no leadership that can steady the group when the pressure's on. Every time Rangers concede possession in dangerous areas, you can feel the anxiety ripple through the team. That's not how a top club defends. That's not how titles are won. It's how seasons unravel, especially when European football is on the line and the margins are razor thin. The fear is that the longer this continues, the harder it becomes to recover. Not just in the league table, but in the dressing room. Confidence is a fragile thing. And when it starts to fade, it spreads like wildfire. The young players feel it. The veterans feel it. Even the coaching staff start to question their methods. Suddenly, training sessions become tense. Decisions start getting second-guessed. And before you know it, even winnable games start to look like mountains. But here's the thing. Rangers are not a club built on fear. This is a badge that demands courage, leadership, and accountability. And that applies to everyone, from the man in the dugout to the one sitting upstairs in the director's box. If the manager stays, he needs to be backed properly. Not just with words, but with clear plans and smarter recruitment. If he goes, then the next man in has to be the right one, not just another quick fix to quiet the fans for a few weeks. The supporters aren't blind. They see through the slogans. They know when they're being sold a dream that's got no foundation behind it. That's why the anger has reached this level. It's not just about a bad run of results. It's about feeling like the people running the club don't have a grip on what Rangers actually need. Stability, direction, a team that plays with purpose and pride. Right now, they've got none of that. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. It started as a whisper, the sort of low murmur that tends to drift around Ibrox when results wobble and spirits sag. But now it has turned into something far louder, a rumble that threatens to shake the very foundations of the Rangers dressing room. Tom Lawrence, one of the more experienced voices in the squad, is said to have let slip behind closed doors that the current atmosphere is nothing short of toxic and disunited. A bold statement, and one that, if true, will ignite debate across Scottish football. The Welsh international, admired for his professionalism and graft on the pitch, has rarely been one for controversy. Yet the claim suggests a fracture within the camp that could explain the inconsistency that has plagued Rangers in recent weeks. Insiders hint at cliques forming, with certain senior players pulling in different directions, while others feel increasingly isolated. Some even suggest that training ground sessions have lost their edge, with frustrations bubbling just beneath the surface. For supporters, this is the kind of chatter that gnaws away at trust. The Ibrox faithful expect unity, discipline, and a collective fight for silverware. To hear whispers of disharmony is a bitter pill, especially given the high stakes of the season. Every slip on the park now looks less like a tactical lapse and more like a symptom of something deeper, something rotten. Rival fans, of course, will delight in such news. Nothing pleases the green half of Glasgow more than the idea of chaos brewing across the city. But within Rangers circles, there is also a flicker of defiance. Some argue that dressing rooms are always combustible, that strong personalities clash, and that Lawrence's alleged comments might simply have been a moment of brutal honesty rather than outright condemnation. Still, the timing feels telling. With crucial fixtures looming, the last thing Rangers need is an internal storm. If unity is indeed fractured, the manager faces not only the tactical challenge of winning matches, but also the delicate task of piecing back together a divided squad. Until then, the murmur remains, a rumor, a whisper, a bombshell waiting to detonate fully in the public eye. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.